This episode of We Are Libertarians is brought to you by Audible.com. Enjoy one free audiobook courtesy of We Are Libertarians. Choose from more than 100,000 audiobook titles, including works by Ron Paul, Walter Block, Murray Rothbard, and the Cato Institute. Audible.com also has audio of radio and TV programs and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. You can get the Audible app on any mobile device or download the audio to your computer. Go to audibletrial.com/WAL or head to WeareLibertarians.com and find the link to get one free month of Audible today.
I like pie.
Welcome to We Are Libertarians for this week. I am Chris Spangle, as always, leading the charge here. To my right is Greg Lenz. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you?
All right, and to your right is Christopher Peffers. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Chris.
Excellent. Always enthused by your enthusiasm. And to my left, the returning wall champion, Miah Axton.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, you look very nice today.
I do. I feel very nice today. I feel like I ought to just, not be here because I'll have to be way too nice to even make this show worthwhile.
When you walked in, you totally dropped a, hey, everybody, come see how good I look.
Yeah, pretty much.
So go to Maya's Facebook page and check out what she's done to her hair and
I'm doing a 20s style today.
Yeah, so go check that out. All right, this is going to be a fired-up edition of Weird Libertarians. I'm really just... I'm
feeling the fire.
Yeah, I know. Bill Buckley had a saying. George Will asked Bill Buckley, editor of National Review, one time, how do you come up with all your ideas for columns? And William F. Buckley replied, the world pisses me off 3 times a week. And I've been pissed off at least 3 times in the last hour. This may not be relevant by the time you download it. We know some of you listening download months later. Some of you, inexplicably, are still downloading episode 1 and listening to that. And for that, we do apologize.
It's classic.
Those
are
classic.
The hipster wall fans.
Yeah.
They liked it before it was cool.
Those 25 people that have downloaded that episode, they knew it before it was popular. Although that can be debatable. Who knows if this is still relevant, but I think the discussion will be. This afternoon, we're recording this on Thursday, October 3rd, there was, even in the middle of the government shutdown, even in the middle of the Obamacare fight, the upcoming debt ceiling fight, that is not the main news today. The main news is this wacko bird lady that drove her car into one of the first gates, one of the first checkpoints for people trying to drive into the White House. She drove into the barrier there. They told her to stop. She declined and backed away as fast as she could, and that's when she rammed a barricade behind her and took off speeding down Pennsylvania, or Constitution, I think it was Pennsylvania, and heading the 1.5 miles down to the Capitol building, where she started going around and around, and I think it's Grover Cleveland Circle or
James
something. James Garfield, thanks. One of those irrelevant presidents from the bygone days.
Grover Cleveland was pretty cool.
Was he? He had... you're just saying that because he had the same facial hair as you. Peffers sporting the Rupert Bonham look. Yeah. So that is where a video that CNN has that we will put in the show notes picks up. You'll probably, if you're familiar with the story, have seen the video where she drives, gets pinned in this circle by police. She's surrounded by half a dozen police officers, made up of Secret Service, Capitol Police, D.C. Metro Police, and they swarm the car. They put their head in the car. They somehow manage to not see the 1-year-old sitting in the back seat. And she sits there for a few seconds, backs into the police car, moves forward, and takes off. 4 seconds after the car starts moving, the police open fire at her. So she's not moving towards anyone at that point. She's past them and poses no imminent danger to the police at that very moment and is driving away. That's when they open fire to mortally wound her, so she wrecks the car with the 1-year-old in the car, or they're trying to shoot out tires. Who knows what they're trying to do?
Or maybe they didn't like what somebody in the background was doing. It's possible.
Who knows? We can only...
It's an elaborate assassination.
So,
yes.
And point it like this, Peffers. Yep, straight on. And that's when they open fire, and I don't know if she is wounded at that point or if she drives away and then is wounded just about 30 seconds later where she, the chase ends. And this has caused quite a stir on Facebook, mostly between me and all the people, basically me and Republicans. I'm fulfilling the Miah Axton role on Facebook today by annoying statists. And my point of view on this, now a little bit about the woman. She's 34 years old. She's apparently from Somalia. She lives in Connecticut, or she lived in Connecticut, and she's a dental hygienist driving a black Infiniti, which this is the part of the story where Greg Lenz gets confused.
Well, I mean, that's a $35,000 car, and dental hygienist typical salary is around $55,000, $56,000, and if she lives in Washington D.C., rent's probably around minimum of $1,500. So either she had a boatload of cash to buy it outright, or she's got a car payment that takes up pretty much all her income.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like there's something suspicious going on. Like she had to warn the president.
She has apparently, according to CNN, so take that with a grain of salt. Wolf Blitzer is the one that told this to me, and you can't rely on him for crap.
But he's got such a cool name.
Yeah.
He does have stamina, though.
Yeah.
That guy.
Well, you've been in the bedroom.
Some
have you?
rapists do too, but
and
we don't cheer
Coulter
them on
told
for
it
that.
to me.
Wow,
Hitler had stamina.
You went there, Miah. Wow. So she apparently has a history of mental problems, which that means she was on Paxil, or she's schizophrenic, or the DMS is a very DMS. It's a very, very long book.
DSRM. Yeah, what'd I say?
DMS.
I don't give.
DMX.
Stop.
The diagnostic manual for stupid crap the medical industry brings up. Remember, there's like a couple thousand, like you twisting your pencil around as a mental disorder. So take that with a really, really big block of salt when it comes from CNN.
Which this is like the new thing that they're going to start. Anybody who does anything, they're all mentally ill, and who knows what it could mean. So there's no standard definition there. Now. We're this happened at 2:00. We're recording at 2. It happened at 2:30. We're recording at 7:30. So we're early. We've got basic facts here. We've had one briefing from the police, and they didn't talk about this lady.
There's no motive that's identifiable.
They have, and this really perplexed the press when they talked to the D.C. police. They said, "Do you know if there is a motive?" And they said, "We do not know that!" Exclamation point. We killed her! Exclamation point! Exclamation point. And then they said, "Well, how can you rule out terrorism?" Well, we just did.
No way. I guarantee you the NSA she's from Somalia.
Right.
That is
she's from Somalia and African American, so she must be a terrorist.
Well, I mean, that's a partial Islamic terrorist
that is
state.
totally what they were implying.
Have
in the
they
DC press.
implied that she was on some sort of like crack cocaine or heroin yet? Because
Right.
she's colored, so that means she
God.
has to be on some kind of
Oh,
drug.
God.
We're talking about the media here.
Okay.
There are no boundaries to their.
That's a word.
That's
This
man.
is-
That's
What's
just
that George Carlin said? There's a lot more than 7 dirty words.
Yeah.
I need to breathe. Okay.
Clearly.
Told me to tell that.
What?
What?
So we don't know her motives, and we'll never know her motives because she's no longer living, and that is part of our problem with all of this.
She's alive. She's on a ventilator, right?
No, she died.
She did die.
She
dead.
passed away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So-
No, we'll have her Facebook that can or cannot be manipulated at a later date, as we've found out from the NSA and FBI. But we might be able to find out if she was on a terrorist plot to murder the president.
So this brings up a couple things that I want to talk about real quick. We're going to go to our cop block police brutality expert on the program, also a former law enforcement agent or officer in the military.
With distinction.
With distinction, served with distinction, has the paper to prove it. Miah Axton. So, should this woman... let me play devil's advocate here. This woman was posing a threat to police officers to people. This was in a very crowded area. If you look at the video, there's a lot of people standing around gawking. So she was unarmed. She did not have a weapon, as first reported. But she was using her car as a weapon. No, so why is it wrong that you would use deadly force to stop someone who is clearly posing a danger to people in that area?
Let's back this way up to why that situation even came to be. I have always disagreed with the way cops treat chases. That they escalate the situation when they don't need to. That's one of the big things people see about cops is that they purposely escalate situations, all in the manner of saving time. It seems that things have to end quickly, or it's not worth it. But if they would have just followed, slowly, they had her plates. It's D.C. There's cops everywhere. The radios are quicker than any car. They could have radioed into the millions of police organizations in that freaking area, and they could have stopped her a million different ways. There's barricades in the road barricades and barricades you can throw out all over D.C. They could have stopped her, corralled her. They could have done a million things, but what'd they do? They chased her in cop cars.
Well, one of the first things that you look at this video and you go, okay, well, you know that D.C. is not lacking. When you learn to drive, one of the first things they say, you can try and run from the police, but every law enforcement agency has the resources to outlast you and your little Chevy Cobalt or whatever you've got. Even if you've got a full tank and you hit the state line, people on the other side of the state line will be waiting for you.
Right.
So
and this is Washington, D.C., for God's sake.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not an easy place to navigate. For anybody that's never been to D.C., you don't go there and would ever think about running. First off, it's packed 24/7. And the fact that she made it that far is, first off, amazing. But it's probably because she was assisted with the help of bright, flashing blue and red lights and sirens. So I'm sure that really helped her escape.
She got a police escort.
Basically, but all of that happens. What'd she really do to get chased in the first place? Yeah, she was acting like an idiot, and she ran into a couple barricades. Barricades that are probably meant to withstand a semi going 50 miles an hour, but I digress. So they do all this, and they finally block her in with cop cars. And they don't do a very good job of it, and they do not disable the vehicle. That's one thing I was trained to do, is that you disable a vehicle before you try to do anything else.
How do you do that?
You either run it into something, when you box something in, you physically box that crap in. That's why when you see cops hit cars, they do at kind of excessive speeds because they're trying to disable the vehicle to make sure that... Because you'll
right.
if
so
you
ever
watch cop chases...
So you run into the back wheel well, so you damage the axle.
Yeah, well, okay, with the way she was, if they would have pushed her into those guardrails, you see in the video there, if they would have pushed her into those, if another car... Because there's, 5 cars right past her that had pulled in behind them before they jumped out and ran up there and pointed guns at her head. If they would have ran one more car into her car, would have been fine.
Right.
She could have never ran away. Yeah, maybe she could have backed up an inch or two or something, but the safeties would... The cops would have guaranteed their safety when they went to approach the car. They made the mistake. So when they gave her more than enough room to back up and then pull out, but they'd already surrounded her. They'd already surrounded her, and they got in front of a car that could still drive.
Right. They were physically in front of the car.
Yeah, with the
not that just could still drive. That was pretty much in pristine condition.
It did. Right. It barely had much damage. I'm sure the back had the most damage as she backed in the cop car. But they approached a car that was still running. The driver was still coherent. Well, ish. And they approached it. That was a stupid mistake. But she backed up and then drove forward, and they all got out of the way. Why they fired on her car in a very crowded place, a.k.a. Washington, D.C., where if an errant bullet misses its target and an errant bullet just flies, it could hit a statesman. It could hit an important person. It could hit an ambassador from a different country. You kind of don't want to just go around shooting.
Well, they essentially, as she is driving away, 4 seconds after that vehicle starts moving and she's free is when they start firing. So we counted it before of it. She was stopped, and then by the time the car stopped moving, and then when they fired, it was 12 seconds. And I look at that like that is an unarmed suspect running away from the cops, so you're going to just shoot them in the back?
But then they did stop shooting as well. They didn't continue on shooting.
Right.
Which makes me think it might have been for the tires, because it was specifically 8 bullets,
shooting at tires on a moving car, a black car. Yeah, no, that's bull crap. They were remember the pictures in L.A. from the Christopher Dorner thing? Mm-hmm. Did it look like they were shooting at tires?
No.
Yeah. You see how many the 50 plus bolts they put in the back of that one vehicle? They weren't shooting for tires.
But
man.
we don't know that she got hit right then.
Right. We do not know that at this
highly
point.
likely, but
because they stopped.
There
were
were
literally when she
backed
up the bullet holes in the car were 4 bullet holes in the passenger side, and as she was driving and rounding the corner is when they were firing. So it is possible that that's when the car was shot up.
Because if they really wanted to kill her, I think they would have 1 shot higher, and 2 they would have continued shooting, not stopped.
Now another thing to point out is that when she backed up that car initially after they had her blocked and stopped. She backed up, and then and probably her franticness, couldn't shift that well, and she sat there for, a second and a half, 2 seconds?
Yeah.
If they were going to shoot because they feared for their safety, which they should have because they screwed up, then they should have shot right then.
Right.
And they could have stopped her from driving off, but they didn't, so that's kind of weird. Now, the 4 bullet holes in her passenger door, that's interesting because if they would have, since they've already fired shots on her, you can guarantee it was now open season on her ass. And that means that when they chased her down, wherever she ended up at, or she hit something or whatever, they probably opened fire on her there too.
Yeah, most likely. I think it's difficult to. I have a tough time completely blaming the police officers because she tried to drive up to the White House and hit a barricade. Then have
you ever driven in D.C.?
Oh, God, yeah.
You get turned around.
Oh,
listen,
no, I know that.
The only person acting a fool around the White House that's not going to get killed is the President of the United States.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so she goes to the White House, tries to do that, flies up Pennsylvania, turns right and to go towards the Capitol building. She's already shown she's irrational. She is trying to act like a crazy person in the most locked down place in the world. Probably.
It matters not where she was.
But no. Oh, totally.
Oh, it matters not.
I have driven more crazily than that, leaving Riverside Golf Course in Indianapolis.
It does matter in the real world, but that shouldn't be the reason why you get to open fire to murder somebody.
No, but I'm saying, well, here's how I would, if I was a cop in that situation, I would say, okay. I mean, and this is all real time, so who knows if the thought process was this, which it definitely wasn't. It's fight or flight at that time, but. This person drove up to the White House, flew down Pennsylvania Avenue, tried to go up to the States of the Capitol building. Clearly they're not rational.
You know how many murders there are in D.C. every year?
Tons.
D.C. is one of the most dangerous cities there are to live in.
Oh, yeah, that. Detroit, Gary.
These aren't cops. These aren't mall cops. These aren't cops from some small town. They're trained.
Which is all the more evidence that she's very irrational. How do you know she doesn't have a car bomb?
At least 2 of those were Secret Service agents that surrounded that car.
They very well could have thought she had a car bomb.
Like I said, remember, you can corral and you can... They chased her to the freaking Capitol.
I know, but that's
How did they make that mistake? They chased her to the Capitol. If they really thought she was a real threat, she would have never got there. Or if that's the case, that was the best they could do with somebody running a car... Taking over Washington, D.C. in like a revolution or a civil war would take about 10 people in 20 minutes because those people are incompetent shits.
All right.
They chased her from the White House to the Capitol building.
All right, Gina.
Well, that cop at that time has to understand she's clearly acting irrationally. Who knows what's in that car?
But remember, they escalated the situation just by chasing her in that way, and they do it every time.
Oh, I know. And then as far as not using excessive force with like hitting the car with a little bit of speed, it's a very highly watched area. The last thing they want on their hands is to hit that car and cause damage to some like demented woman and then get blamed as the excessive force.
No, they'll shoot at her.
Right.
I'm not saying is what the mainstream people would use to defend the police in that situation. That's not what I believe.
I don't necessarily always disagree with how cops take down a vehicle. I disagree with them how they chase them in such an aggressive manner and escalate the situation. But when they go to take down a car, or if they get a car that stops, they make sure that car's not going anywhere because you see way too many times when a car stops and cops don't disable it, it takes off, it hits a cop.
But visibility matters. Right in front. I mean, if they hit her really hard and she's crazy,
but then again,
it looks terrible.
There was, 6, 7 cops surrounding that car, and no one saw a 1-year-old child. That was wearing a very bright outfit, by the way.
So, we didn't have this discussion with the Navy shooter. There was no controversy with the Navy shooter. That person was in a building killing people and deserved to be taken out. right then and there because they posed an imminent threat. But I think in situations like this, there is a debate because the goal of police officers, the goal of law enforcement, is that they are there to protect rights and keep the peace. Well, keep the peace while protecting rights at the same time.
Not protecting rights, enforcing laws. Remember, the Supreme Court came down and said a ruling that cops have no, they're not expected to protect anybody. That's not their job. It's not to protect and serve. It's to enforce the laws.
Well, that's part of the problem that we've got with our police departments is that over time, as we've seen, and we saw this with Radley Balco in our discussion, police departments have become militarized. And the point of a military, as we've discussed on this program, the point of a military is what, Greg?
To win, to conquer your opponent.
To annihilate, to break things and kill people.
As was written in basic training on the walls was written, we're here to kill people and blow shit up.
Right.
Exactly.
And that is not the job of a police officer. This is not a woman who needed to be annihilated right away. If she is so we can play armchair police officers all we want. We don't agree that every police officer is bad and that every police officer is bad.
Before you imply that I think all police officers are bad, I think their job and the entire career itself, the idea of police officers are bad, and I do believe that some good people go there for great reasons, but the job itself is bad.
Right.
So you cannot be good doing a bad thing.
Terrible incentives.
Over time, you spend 90% of your time around the 10% of our worst of our population. I think that jades people. But I will say at this moment in the podcast that if you draw a salary from any government, you probably are not going to like most of us, but especially not Miah by the end of this podcast.
How long until the media blames it on the shutdown?
Oh,
the District of Columbia not having enough funding. I'm shocked it hasn't happened already.
No, it could be very likely that this lady was like, she's like, let me talk to the president. I want to talk to the president. I want to yell at the president and what the hell and blah, 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 blah. And
how am I supposed to afford Medicaid in my Infinity? That payment isn't cheap.
All right, so...
Hey now.
We do support police officers, and they do have a right to protect themselves. They are in a very dangerous situation. They're in a very dangerous job. We don't believe that, we believe that Libertarians believe that police officers accept that danger. And one of the comments that Radley Balco said is that sometimes the mentality of police departments and politicians is that police officers should never even have the chance to stub their toe, let alone get hurt. Case
in point, the dog killing.
Right. Why kill the guy's dog after it's clearly subdued in some of the videos that he presented? And if you want to hear that, go to wal-radio.com and check out, just Google Radley's name or scroll down, you'll see it. And
don't
you can
forget
hear that
to
whole
buy
talk.
his book.
Yeah.
He has a book out.
The Rise of the Warrior Cop.
So, and that I think is, because it was fresh on our minds, that's sort of why this struck a little bit of a chord here. One quick thing that I want to talk about before we go on to the shutdown and Obamacare and all that, the labeling of this as a non-terrorist event. And this is one of my pet peeves that I think I'm slowly developing that I want to get the ball rolling on a quick discussion here. They don't know her motives. They don't even really know who this is. They don't know why she's trying to drive into the White House or drive into Congress. But they know that with certainty that it is not a terrorist attempt. Is it because it is not a young Muslim man that this is not a terrorist attempt? I mean, the way that they just frivolously decide what is or is not a terrorist event seems superfluous. It seems silly to me. And we saw this with the Tsarnaev brothers. That was clearly a terrorist attempt, but it also was a police action at the same time. I mean, it was not a military operation necessarily. It was something that could have been prevented with, hindsight obviously being 2020, with some of the right moves. What defines a terrorist attempt?
Everything that how they have defined the word terrorist and a terrorist attack is anything that could and might kind of possibly invoke a little terror in somebody.
Right.
Technically, that lady did commit a terrorist attack because after the cop shot her, people were running scared. That created fear, panic, and terror.
No, the people who were running scared today around the Capitol were scared because the police opened fire.
No, come on now, Chris. The police only had to open fire to protect everybody from that terrorist.
People heard gunshots, and they assumed that it was a crazy person and not the police shooting at them.
That is the definition of terrorist. Remember, libertarians are some scary people. We talk about some scary shit. That's why they've labeled us as homegrown terrorists. All four of us sitting in this room, by government definition through different organizations, are labeled as terrorists.
So, also, what's the time frame for this thing happening? About 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, it started at about 2:15, and then it took till about 2:40-ish.
Okay, so that's clearly enough time to have the NSA read emails and communications.
Right.
And so that is how you can know what her intent or any kind of trail. They could absolutely have known that by then.
By that point, they've got the cameras reading her license plate as she's speeding down. I mean, and know everything about her. It just seems to me that it's kind of arbitrary, and it's one of the things that we ought to keep an eye on and worry about is that if the media deems it a terrorist attack, it is a terrorist attack, and you should be afraid.
Well, maybe they didn't find any weapons or anything in her car. Maybe they look in the car and they just find a 1-year-old. They're like, "Oh, this wasn't a terrorist."
Everyone should fear dental hygienists.
She's just crazy.
Now they're hiding bombs in kids.
That's not.
Has anybody checked the kid?
It's not actually funny because Al Qaeda is doing that. They're surgically implanting bombs into kids.
Into
but
children.
The CIA is teaching them how to do that.
I swear, what she wanted to do is she wanted to get in and floss the president's teeth hard.
Yeah.
Because those dental hygienists, man, you go there and they're like teeth terrorists. They're getting up in the gums real hard.
Wait a second. Because of the shutdown, WIC and a lot of federal programs for infants have been the checks and the funding for that have been shut down. If this could have been child related, or maybe her kid got that study that Harry Reid, there was the big hoax.
We need to find out her name and go to her Facebook, and if her last post was, "I'm gonna go slap the shit out of the president for canceling WIC,"
yeah,
we know her answer, and it's gonna be hilarious.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll
but
find
in this
out.
day and age, if she wanted to harm the president, would that have been a terrorist attack?
No, she would. If she wanted to go up there and slap the shit out of
not by your definition.
Oh,
but by
the media's.
The
Oh,
legal
yes,
definition.
yes.
The legal definition.
Remember, any action against a state is a terrorist act,
and and to cause an environment of terror, of mass panic, because pure assassination isn't necessarily terrorism except on behalf of the person who did it. You can't implicate other people, like the case with John Wilkes Booth, where what she was doing was causing mass hysteria by disturbing the peace. Then it's definitely a terrorist attack.
Right. All right. So
by their
by the words on paper.
Right. Damn words on paper ruins my life.
Yeah, social contract. I didn't sign that shit.
We should ban
That's
words.
right,
on,
Lysander.
We should ban words on paper so everyone only can listen to podcasts.
I would like that should be a law. Where's Crichton to pass a law at?
Pass a law, scumbag Creighton. Okay. Okay. So on to the government shutdown, Peffers. Here is what's happening in a nutshell. They ran out of the continuing resolution. They haven't passed a budget since 1996. By September 30th, they had to pass, 15 appropriations bills that fund the entire federal government. They essentially, everybody kind of knew that they were heading towards a shutdown because the House Republicans.
There's been a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, and some of the Senate Republicans started talking about negotiating with the president to defund Obamacare. And that just everybody just didn't do a thing. It's a lot of, we've got to get our homework done by September 30th because October 1st, midnight, everything shuts down. We run out of funding. No new checks can be issued from the Treasury. And essentially, they just didn't do their homework. They didn't negotiate. They didn't talk. They didn't pass any bills. And so the government shuts down. So they're just not paying for some services. 800,000 people are sitting at home. That's roughly
25%.
That's 25%, 30%, somewhere around there that are not at work, that are not, they're furloughed. There's some debate. Some people think that they'll get their back pay like they did in 1996. Other people think that's just not going to happen. That won't pass.
It's the agency gets to decide that out of the appropriation fund.
So they are trying to. So what has happened? The reason for the shutdown is that the Republicans want to not fund parts or all of Obamacare in this bill. It's a law. It's been passed. It's supposed to be funded, and they don't want to fund it. They're not going to fund it. To that, I would argue you lost all kinds of elections. We all hate Obamacare, but you don't have the math to pull that off. You don't have the House. You have too many statist Republicans. The president's going to veto it, and you're not going to have 67% to get over that hump. So at this point, after the exchanges have opened, what are we fighting about now? Now we're just kind of shut down just because we can be shut down.
What if that's not their strategy, though?
Okay, what's their strategy?
The point was, look at the sequester. Nobody noticed. Granted, it was not real cuts in spending, but no one even cared. The economy didn't matter. Why not just keep the government shut down? Granted, everybody's owed back pay. There's certain mandatory spending, but if enough non-essentials just decide to quit because they have no likelihood of getting paid, that's a passive-aggressive way of getting small government.
Do Peffers or Miah, do you find validity in that argument that they would just shut it down to shut it down?
That's the big joke. I've been hearing, now everyone will see how much they don't need the government.
Right.
That's what the Democrats are really afraid of.
Nothing's changed.
No,
Yeah.
wrong. Nothing's changed. If you look at the organization of shutdown and furloughed, it will take weeks for any effects to ever be shown.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's two things here. Imagine they furlough these people for a couple weeks, right? They're not going to just ever cancel having them their jobs. The IRS is not going to keep 90% of their employees furloughed. They can still collect your taxes.
Oh, yeah.
And they can still do many of other things.
They just can't spend it because it won't be appropriated.
No, they can still take your money. That's the important part. Mm-hmm. They can still take your money. Now, they're never going to stop doing that. But now, if there's any questions or any problems, you're screwed. Now you're stuck. There's no back and forth. That's actually a plus for the government. Now, what they do is they furlough people, get some people there that they didn't really like or anything else like that. Those people go on to get jobs. The people that are actually the real parasites will stay behind, and then they'll hire new parasites.
How if they don't ever get appropriated funds?
No, if they stop the shutdown, because they will,
yeah,
they'll stop shutdown, and they'll bring it back. And then all the people that left, that were furloughed or have other jobs or they don't want to bring back or whatever for any odd reason they make up, they'll bring new people in. And the government does force gentrification all over the place, right? They plan cities out and they plan what races live where and they kind of push people around. They'll do the same thing. They want to hire a different group of people now. Hell, this is just a clearinghouse to get the numbers they want in the employment or the people they want in the employment. That's one possibility they can use. So, I mean, this isn't something that's going to last for a long time. It can't. Because if it does, you know what happens? They cancel half all those organizations and just make another one.
Well, what happens is, over time, the press starts putting pressure on the Republicans. And then Republicans just start dropping one by one and start backing a funding bill of some sort.
But Speaker Boehner is the one who has to present it.
Right. And
if
Boehner,
he doesn't cave, nothing gets up.
Are we really hoping that Boehner is going to be the one with the backbone?
He hasn't yet. He hasn't not shown backbone yet. What indication has he given you that he will not?
Because it's a big game.
Mm-hmm.
This is one thing to always
keep. One of the
keep.
emptiest suits I've ever seen.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind during all of this, and this even goes down to Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, is that none of them live in reality. We're in politics. Like Chris and I are deep into politics. That's not the real world. You don't talk and handle things like regular human beings.
It's like Bill Clinton said, if you want to have a regular life, then you don't go into politics.
Yeah, it's not technically reality, as most people know it. So when the news media and everybody else, they're comparing politics and what's going on in the discussions to, like, you talking to your buddies at work, or you're talking about your new manager at work. No. It's not the same. It's you have to talk to people the right way. You have to know who you talk to, what you do, what the implications are. You've got backers, you got party officials, you've got so many different people that affect every little decision you make. It's not like Rand Paul is going up there and go, well, I oppose that, so I'm going to oppose that. No, he has to sit down with a team of people and figure out exactly how to say what he wants to say, or he's screwed and he's no longer there.
And we saw part of that today. If you go to the Political Wire, politicalwire.com, Tegan Goddard's site, there was an open mic, and Paul got caught discussing some of the media strategy talking points with
Well, he said
Mitch
they were
McConnell.
winning.
So you have a different view on Boehner than I hear from most people on the right. Greg, what is your opinion of Boehner, and why do you think that he has backbone?
Oh, I don't think he has backbone. I agree that they're winning the war on messaging right now. I have yet to see a huge backlash from this government shutdown. I haven't seen it in the media. I haven't seen it on the news sites outside of Slate and Salon and those types of websites. People are still getting their Social Security checks.
Right.
There was this thing on Reddit. It was this guy's trip to D.C. over the weekend, and he was just standing in front of all the barricades being happy.
I mean, but really, yeah, they've shut down stuff that people don't care about.
Yeah, I mean, it's the national parks. Like, honestly, unless like someone goes to Yellowstone and gets eaten by a bear, I don't see like the sympathy vote. Like, well, no one was there to warn him you shouldn't feed the wildlife.
Yeah, you really only see the vitriol coming from the left who are using this to try and win
I don't
points.
see like the American public swaying at all. Like when that thing you're talking about, Rand Paul, like that the headline of that story was he issues GOP talking points, and all he said to McConnell was, I think we're winning.
Right.
He didn't say anything about GOP talking points. He goes, I honestly think we're winning the messaging war. And I was like,
the reason that he thinks that they're winning the war on messaging is because Obama keeps going out and saying, I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to negotiate with you. I'm not going to do a thing. And then Harry Reid comes out and says it like a million times less eloquently and says that he doesn't care about cancer kids because there's soldiers at his state, which was one of the worst gaffes. But the president, is getting a lot of flack from his side even, saying, okay, why are you not being a leader? Why are you not negotiating? The reason that the Lewinsky affair started with Clinton, because it was the government shutdown.
The interns filled in.
And the interns filled in. Literally. And Monica Lewinsky brought a pizza into the congressional delegation that was meeting with Clinton, and that's when he first spotted Lewinsky, and that's when the affair began. So they were having late-night bull sessions, ordering pizza, trying to work out a resolution to the government shutdown, and there was leadership from the president on that. Obama came out today, and he said, we're not going to negotiate with people who are taking the American people hostage. The deputy advisor to forget what his name is came out and said, we're not going to negotiate with terrorists, people who strap bombs to themselves. Their imagery is very...
it's vitriol.
Yeah, even the left can't even defend it.
No, hold on. I think it's a very bold, intelligent move on his part, because he has backed down and sold out and compromised on everything he's promised us.
Like what?
Has he not?
No.
Every promise he's made,
he hasn't compromised yet.
No.
On what?
Out of compromise, things haven't gotten done. Things haven't happened that he said he wanted to do.
He's definitely at least gotten
Guantanamo, right?
Guantanamo, NSA.
He just couldn't get it done. That's denying reality.
Hold on. Okay, even if what I said was a little
pro-Obama, you Democrat.
I don't care about pro-Obama. I just don't know what he has compromised on.
No, hold on. Here, by coming out and saying, I will not compromise, even with the Democrats telling me I'm wrong, I won't compromise because this means something to the American people. All the people that love him and have been bitching at him for not getting things done will love him for this.
He's been abandoned. He is the Mr. Irrelevant. Oh,
really?
My God.
Really?
His
you know
base
how many
has left
people
him.
I know that still are proud and make sure they put a nice little coat of wax over their Obama sticker? Who are you talking to? There's people out there that still...
Are we using the crowd that you talk to as an accurate representation of life? I'm just trying to be clear here.
Sadly, I interact with people I would never choose to interact with. I'm not talking about people I voluntarily interact with.
All right.
Now,
I'll take number one on that list.
People still love Obama. And many people are such statists that they don't care who the president is. They will abide by and follow that president. Because he is the president of the United States. They will not question that power because they're statists.
I don't know. I mean, statism is one thing, but when the New York Times blasted him, that's when everything was exposed. For Snowden, for wanting to go into Syria, the first time he got a little bit of credibility back was when he left it up to Congress to declare war, and it was like, okay, all right, we're going to put the ball in Congress's hands.
I think he's making a smart move here.
Really? That's interesting.
Because people want free health care.
It's not free healthcare, though.
Hold on. It's not. But people don't know the difference between the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare. They don't realize it's the same thing. Now, if people are that stupid, people think this is free healthcare. Watch Twitter. Look up the hashtag Obamacare and read what some of those people say when they're not talking against it. People think this is free health care. People think the world is saved now. And if they think that, enough people think that because those people get busted in to vote. They're the important people here. They think him standing up for this socialized, quote-unquote, socialized medicine from their perspective is a saving grace, and it must happen. Remember,
but hardcore liberals are a very small part of this country. Very small. Independents hate Obamacare, and Republicans hate Obamacare.
No, they don't. You know why Republicans hate Obamacare? Because they don't have their name on it.
Oh yeah,
remember,
they hate, yeah.
They love Mitt Romney's.
I'm talking about
they
the politics.
Their own.
I know. I'm talking about the politics of it.
The ideological foundations of Obamacare
are Mitt Romney.
Are well, part of it
Newt
was
Gingrich,
the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah,
I learned this today actually, as an effort to combat Hillary Care. The Heritage Foundation came up with the exchanges idea.
In the individual mandate.
Right.
Yeah.
And the roots of Obamacare are the conservative think tanks, the Heritage Foundation. One of the more influential, Jim DeMint, runs it now.
Which is becoming more irrelevant by the day.
So
all they care is about hating gays, so it doesn't matter.
All right,
culture
so
wars.
I think it's starting to get out that mentality that he refuses to negotiate with the Republicans, and he once again is not showing leadership in any way, and I think people are picking up on that. But I also think the Republicans haven't done a great job of showing exactly why the government is shut down, because I think anybody who pays attention go, okay, well, the math doesn't work. You don't have the votes, so what's the point of this? To defeat Obamacare, you have to do really well in the next 2 cycles. And by doing this, you open yourself up to being lambasted over and over and over again in the media, and that hurts your public opinion polls. Congress looks bad. Your incumbents that you need to hold those seats look bad, and it hurts you in those elections.
But
now,
who's really blasting them? CNN a little. MSNBC's destroying them.
Right.
But like really, I've been shocked how moderate CNN's coverage has been of them.
Other than Ashley Banfield, who is horrific, it's the general attitude of throw all the bums out. You're not fixing our problems. That's the problem. It's not the House GOP, because like Boehner just doesn't have the same level of I hate you, the I hate you factor that Newt Gingrich did. Like there's something about Newt Gingrich that like there's a base hate. You just want to throw a rock at that man when you see him. And I don't know if it's just because you want to pop his head.
It's because he's arrogant and loves to pontificate
right.
how smart he is.
Boehner looks like pathetic. You just almost feel bad for him.
But he's in the background all the time.
Right.
He doesn't do much media.
But again, so it doesn't make sense from a strategic point of view in any way, unless you want to say, okay, well, we did, the Republicans picked up seats. So they're sitting there thinking we picked up seats in 1996 and 1998, and that's when we were able to effectively impeach a president.
What about this strategy? Go ahead and, because of your constituents and those Tea Party anarchists,
oxymoron much?
Yeah. I loved all those Tea Party anarchists that stormed the World War II martyr.
The Tea Party's not like a thing, though. It's ambiguous.
Yes. So, imagine this. You can create a huge stir and a huge fight and say, I fought against Obamacare when I was in office. I fought against it hardcore so much the government shut down. And then I saved the government from the shutdown. Oh.
Right.
Oh. Wait. It's not about what's going on right now. This matters not. Everything the day-to-day that we all read about and we watch, it's what happened. How do they paint it 6 months from now? How do they paint it during the next election?
Right.
That's what matters. And so it's not who caused it or who's doing something now. Whoever wins gets to, in war and battles, the winner gets to write history. And if the Republicans turn this around somehow and save it, and they can make it look like they were the reason that the shutdown stopped, they're the heroes. And they'll blame those silly Democrats for causing it in the first place.
Well, I mean, the fact is, on October 17th, that's when the debt ceiling's reached. So there will be...
And it could go a few days later just because the shutdown is costing the government less money, so they think it could push it back a few days. But the debt ceiling is going to be
the hard limit.
That's going to be the ugly fight.
Not really. Not if you don't make it be. If you're John Boehner, you are the leader, Speaker of the House. The House controls the purse strings. I go on vacation until October 16th. I come back at 10 o'clock at night and say, here's a continuing resolution if you want economic dismay. We'll see how it works out.
That is one theory that's been floated. all right, so why would you shut down the government over Obamacare when you know you don't have the votes? Some people think that Boehner is doing a calculation. Okay, let the Tea Party folks have the victory on Obamacare. They shut down the government. They exhaust themselves over the next 2 weeks by shutting down the government. And then by that point, everybody will kind of be worn out. They'll be ready to come to the table and start negotiating. And that's when they will raise the debt limit. That's when they will, at least the people who are in safe seats, like Jackie Walorski here in Indiana is not in a safe Republican seat completely. But Todd Rokita and Todd Young are. So they will vote to raise the debt limit. Jackie Walorski won't. So they think that the shutdown is partly to keep the debt limit fight from getting ugly.
Just take the edge off of
public
opinion.
Yeah, and so, the focus is on the shutdown and not on default. So there's a little less panic.
Yeah, but the president won't let default happen. Yeah. Realistically, if Boehner does do that where he just says, you know what, I'm not negotiating. Here is the budget for next year. You can sign it or not, or we can have economic default. President Obama will invoke the 14th Amendment, which says the United States cannot default on any debt. The full faith and credit of the United States shall never be questioned.
Right.
And then you have pure chaos, because then the president not only has precedent for controlling the budget and the purse strings, the executive branch, military, that's like the nuclear scenario.
That literally makes me just want to hang myself
and
go full on Miah.
But
hang yourself? No, come over to my house. We'll grab the guns and we'll go.
Pelosi's already floating that idea.
Hey, it didn't work out so well today. You disobey the police in D.C. It's a capital crime now.
She didn't have a gun.
She wasn't armed and she was erratic and she wasn't in the right frame of mind. I, however, can provide you with the right
If
frame
you would
of
like
mind.
to hear that right frame
Don't
of mind,
bring a
you
kid
can go
along.
to theuncontrollables.com. Once again, that is theuncontrollables.com, and Miah will fill you in on the right frame of mind. But here on We Are Libertarians, we don't believe in all that
You're
noise.
a bunch of pansies. You don't believe in protecting yourself from aggressive force. But that's okay. That's okay. You guys just go ahead and be your pansies, and when they come to your front door asking to see your medical records, and if you're, give you some medical tests because Obamacare is very important. And, remember, the Obamacare police.
Just always know. You're my backup plan.
So you're a big fan of preemptive strikes, then?
Preemptive. I've already been aggressed against. What's preemptive about this?
Yep.
They tax me, they threaten me with violence and put me in a metal cage? No, there is no preemptive anything. They have already attacked me.
You seem like you're
it's
sitting
retribution.
here fine.
Fine
enough.
Shagwamaya.
Fine enough,
Yeah.
yes. Because, fine enough, when the slaves were brought over here from Africa, they actually had an increase in living conditions. They had better shelter, they had better food, better medical care, and better cleanliness than they did, and a longer life expectancy being a slave in a field than they did in Africa, so I guess they should just thank us for it.
No, we ended up without slavery, so I'd say that all worked out, right?
You invited Creighton?
Are you saying that our
Wait. So
It's
the
the
slaves should have, after slavery ended, thank you so much for making me do that for 20 years.
I didn't say they should thank us.
It all worked out, right? It all worked out.
I'm saying thank
I'm
you
saying
letters.
when bad things happen,
it all worked
if
out.
they're really bad, eventually they go away.
It all worked out. It's okay. Like
That's-
all those people that were
Government
shot
has
in
never
that,
gone
by
away, and it's
homes
really
in the
bad.
movie theater.
Gotten
Yeah, they're not
slower and
alive
slower.
anymore.
All
So
right,
you don't have to
everybody,
deal
one
with
at a
this.
time. What'd you say, Greg?
He said when things get really bad, it eventually goes away. And I was like, well, government's really bad, and it's gone nowhere.
Government
Right.
used to be way worse, though. We're not like serfs, and the whole world isn't divided
Are you not?
into these.
Try to leave the country. I dare you. Try to leave and come back. Try to
Right,
modify
but I'm
your
not toiling in fields.
No. Try to modify your property. Try it. Find out what happens.
Any
Go-
piece
go
of my
put a-
property, I
go
can't
put a-
modify any property I
Go
own.
put a barn in your backyard. I dare you. Do it without a permit. Do it without asking permission.
That doesn't make me a serf.
You should do that at
that's
Riley
just-
Towers.
That is a lot.
Really?
that
You're
is
not
a
a
lot
serf?
better than it was in the Middle
What
Ages.
freedoms do you have where you don't have to
All
ask
I am
permission?
saying is we have more freedom today than we have.
But
in
so should we-
history.
But
We
not
should-
at 1776.
That
was when we had the most.
No,
Yeah,
1775.
By the way, you're going to have to talk into that mic louder.
Sorry.
I'm not saying it was equally distributed, but I'm saying that there was more
Okay.
freedom then.
But we should be.
We
should
couldn't
be-
beat our government in a war right now. No way.
Want to bet?
No, I think
Want to bet?
I don't think we could.
there's
personally.
300 million of us. They can't kill us all.
All right, let's have everybody ponder that question in silence so people can think about that.
Wait, hold on. I wanted to establish real quick where Peter Puffer was. I hate your last name. It's like Creighton. Creighton.
No,
Crichton.
this is...
Crichton.
I'm very happy with my last name. Most people do not have trouble pronouncing it once they've said it once.
I've never said it, so that's the case. But I wanted to find where you stand. So you think that our system
I
of
think
government
violent
is...
overthrow is
No, that's not
rash.
where I was going
That's
with that.
where okay.
That's not where I was going with
Okay.
that.
And I agree.
You think...
And so does Greg. And everyone but Miah.
No, I'm not saying violence. I'm
Let
saying
Maya get her
using
thought
violence to
Get your
defend
thought
myself.
out.
But you think that our system of government we have right now is we should be somewhat content with it and happy with
You
it.
should never
because
be
it could
totally
be worse.
content.
No, not totally.
What I am saying is
somewhat
the
content.
only thing
We
you
gotta
can
wrap it up,
really hope
guys.
for
Wrap it
out
up.
of life
Final
is
point.
that it slowly gets better. And that's what's happening. It is slowly getting better. So just chill out and push forward.
Okay, now
You
that
don't have
that's
to push forward
established,
so far.
I now
So hard.
there's things in my head that I shouldn't say out loud.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
But you can hear those on the uncontrollables.com.
This will be the first 15 minutes of that show next week.
Which is the best anarchist podcast?
It is, by far. There is no better podcast, except for Wall. There is no better podcast on the WAL radio network than the Uncontrollables.
But this isn't an anarchist show.
That's right.
That's for the pure anarchist.
This is
and
a
it's the best one.
dirty statist podcast.
That's for the free thinkers. This is for the people that have yet to become free thinkers.
It's for we're the show for people that will take the safe bet that a little bit of government's necessary. If you're one of those that says, "Nah, I can do without it."
They tried it
that's
200
your
years
show.
ago. Don't forget that. But government shutdown. So
Miah is our anarchist correspondent, and we are minarchists. So if you don't know what a minarchist is, look it up. Go to Wikipedia, look up anarchist, and then look up minarchist.
just look up the word wannabe in a dictionary.
Then give up any hope at finding a girlfriend or employment ever again.
Hey,
I
I'm
don't know.
a wife, and I've had like.
Maya's wife's sitting over there, and she's done just fine. All right.
I mean, I'd hit that.
Now, now you just talked about violating the non-aggression principle, and you're talking about hitting now.
With my penis.
Oh, God.
Here's what I love.
See, you know how many people are confused by that?
Damn!
You know how many people are confused by that phrase right there?
My favorite part of all this is now, anytime Harry
You're
Reid does a
thinking
press
about my
conference,
penis?
I can be sitting in there and go, "Do you still hate kids with cancer?" It's that question. Do you hate, or do you still beat your wife? I can say, "Do you still hate kids with
Right.
cancer?" No, I gave that up a long time ago.
He basically, in an interview with Fox today, or
Dana
CNN,
Bash.
Dana Bash, tried to walk it back today. He was like, "I'm just a little old fool." Like, guilty.
Said something about hating kids with cancer?
Because the
Yes.
Republicans they did the piecemeal approach to pass funding things, so they sent one up for the National Institute of Health for kids that have cancer to enter into trials and funding for healthcare, and they voted it down, or they didn't let it go through. So Dana Bash goes, "Come on, why would you not let that bill go through?" And he's like, "These are kids with cancer." And he goes, "I don't have time for kids with cancer. I've got 1,100 employees that are furloughed at Nellis," and then it just hit him. Like, that is the soundbite that is of all time.
And then Chuck Schumer stepped in. Chuck was like, "That's he didn't say that."
We love cancer. Oh God!
Wait, no. It was literally So what they tried to do is the Republicans tried to put forward 3 funding bills for the health, for the D.C. government, which is funded by Congress, for the Park Service, and for one other thing. I forget what it was.
Well, the military.
They've already funded the military.
And the military doesn't get defunded. It's it's their checks. That's the
Right.
issue of the issuing of their checks, but their funding doesn't go away.
So
There are some legal implications too, because this is essential and non-essential, and the IRS has declared 95 or 90% of their employees as non-essential.
right.
That is a great soundbite if you are of the liberty mindset going
Well,
forward.
remember,
So
what they
seize
use to
on that.
consider something essential is that it's necessary for the protection of life and property.
I want to talk about when we get into these situations, there are things that libertarians say that I don't think are effective, but we just kind of repeat it. Like, I don't think that saying, "Well, I just wish all the government was shut down," is really effective when you say that on Facebook. I mean, it's not that we don't disagree with that, but like, how can we explain our position on a government shutdown and really like grab people? Because it's sort of just cliche to say some of the things that we say.
You know how? the same way I've been saying it. We hadn't had a budget since 1997.
Right.
These people do not care. They have let 800,000 people have an unknown future, have sent them out into the dark, have completely broken their promises that they've made through the furloughing of employees, the stopping of things happening, and contracts they've made for the military and everything else. They've broken promises for the last 10 years. They've kept everyone on edge. Well, 10 years. It would be 16 years.
Yeah.
For the last
We're
16 years. They have not been able to keep promises. They have kept everybody on edge. And for what? Every year this comes up, and every year they use it as some kind of political maneuver to get what they want, to get this, to get that. What was it, last year or the year before that he used it for funding for the war? And they made special cases for that and everything else. It's like, that's what a libertarian should say. Is that both parties, year after year, no matter which party, because over the last 16 years they've switched back and forth quite a few times in different presidents and everything else, is that they've done nothing for the last 16 years at least, used our financial issue and our budgets and everything else and people's livelihoods and some of a large amount of money in the economy as a political game, as a political maneuver.
Yeah, one of the the National Park Service and the Interior Department, the House is responsible for putting forth funding bills. They're the ones who initiate all expenditures from the Treasury. They haven't discussed in this year funding or a proper budget for the Interior Department and the National Park Service. But as soon as it becomes politically expedient, because the President of the United States has tried to make them look bad by shutting down all these memorials, that's when they want to fund it, and that's when they find it necessary to start putting bills forth. I mean, what are ways that we can avoid cliches to kind of explain how I think you hit the ineffectiveness of the two parties, just sort of what we talked about. What are some ways that we can talk about this without resorting just to kind of the cliche arguments?
There's really only two differences. Is one, the Democrats want 3% more of millionaires' income on a yearly basis, and then access to health care and subsidization that Republicans in all reality would probably fund anyway. But the thing that's important is to not be against strategic alliances. As far as libertarians go, I agree. The Tea Party's bat crap crazy because there's a lot of the Christian conservative Santorum crowd within the Tea Party that are nuts. But when you guys are on the same side of the argument, strategic alliance makes sense. Two, when you just say we don't need any of these people, you're not giving them even though in all reality that may be the case, for them and the world they live in, that isn't something that they can walk towards. You have to give them a solution, even if it's incrementalism, and I know how much Miah hates that. Even if it's something as simple as the school vouchers, or as something as simple as, listen, the Department of Education has been a drastic failure. Let's do this. Instead of having all the funding go and be directed by some huge government department, let's just go ahead and block grant it to states. Let's do things that are in all reality politically possible, even though you have to compromise on that, and it's a huge compromise as a libertarian. You have to give someone a solution out of their problem if they're going to walk down that path.
Peffers?
Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I think if you hear a line that's going around, it's probably best to just not parrot it like that,
Right, because it's already kind of it's out there already.
Yeah, like, those are great lines, but I don't know. I find by the time I've heard it, most people have heard it.
Right.
So.
I think part of it, too, is what Miah touched on, which is use more emotion. Like, sometimes libertarians want to talk about rights, and they want to talk about process, and they want to talk about the nuts and bolts of things.
Definitely.
But they don't talk about how it's going to... how does this relate to a mother of 3 kids who doesn't make enough money?
Or just what it means to them.
Right.
How they came to this conclusion.
Exactly. I think sometimes if you put it in a personal way, like, this is how I figured this out. This is why I believe this.
And then if you draw from that, like, you won't be parroting lines. You'll be saying your own stuff.
But how on earth do you do that as a libertarian? If I worry about my kid eating and I can't get health care and now I racked up $30,000 in debt, what on earth can a libertarian offer within their framework?
Well,
it's essentially a position of negation.
No, you can still use the whole healthcare thing as a topic to talk to people about healthcare. A very emotional standpoint. Talk about charities. Talk about the Shriners. Talk about the early 1900s.
Yes.
Talk about many different things from an emotional standpoint. Say healthcare reform.
But it's not a guarantee. It's not ironclad.
Right. There was a great video that we shared on the Facebook page. Look up We Are Libertarians. We shared it today, and it was a Reason TV piece on Obamacare versus Samaritan's Ministry, which is an organization I'd never heard of. It is a Christian organization, but it's not. They talked about how there were just basic community clubs who did the same thing that were non-religious. And it's this organization where you join it, and every month you donate to another person in the program $300 for their health bills. And you personally are responsible for negotiating your own health care when you're in a catastrophic event. You are making personal decisions. And as you watch that, you see that this program is caring, it builds community, it is, it works, it functions. If you have a problem and there's people that you can call and get a hold of, you are having personal contact with your doctor, and it's not bureaucratic and uncaring and cold and distant like Obamacare. It's voluntary versus forced. And I thought it was a great example of libertarian healthcare. And it showed you, as you walked through this video, it just made you go, I want my healthcare to be like that. I want it to be warm and caring. And
you know what an even better example of libertarian healthcare was? Is still, to a degree, the Shriners.
Right.
And the Shriners back in the early 1900s, a lot of those fraternity groups, you were part of the fraternity, you paid a tenth of what everybody else did for insurance, and they wasn't necessarily insurance back then.
It was a mutual.
No, yeah.
It was a mutual thing, and so you worked within the fraternity, and doctors competed to be in the network, and it was cheap, and then government and big business colluded to make a monopoly and crushed them. That was a good example of libertarian, because you were still paying for it, but in a good market with good competition, they constantly were improving their methods and their results, but they were constantly lowering their prices to get the most people.
And that's part of the argument that I think we can use. Like, I went to lunch for at the Rathskeller here in Indianapolis, and it's in a building called the Athenaeum in Indianapolis.
Beautiful old building.
Beautiful old building. And I'm a history nerd, an architecture nerd, and I thought, all right, well, what is this place? I've been in here a couple times, but I don't really know what it is. I know it's something German. And it's from a heritage called the Turner Society. And that was a Turnoverin, which has, there's the liberal Germans from the mid-1800s had a philosophy, and they all gathered together to exercise and to discuss philosophy. They had a very liberal tradition, and, they came together they got together as a community, they worked out their problems together. And I just thought, wow, okay, we don't have places like this where we have these community centers where we get together, we talk about ideas.
Social networks.
Yeah, but it's not as personal as that, where you're all together in a room discussing ideas. I mean, this is maybe the closest thing there is that we have in our lives. The few of us in the We Are Libertarians network get together once a week, and we talk about issues of the day, and we record it so we can send it out, and hopefully you feel like you're in a Turnoverin. And we'll mail you some bratwurst if you send us your address. But I just thought, look up on Wikipedia the Turner Society, because I thought it was really kind of an interesting concept that we've lost as government has gotten bigger. We've lost that sense of community.
Well, the social units have really broken down. Just the basic things of community have broken down. The social clubs, the bowling leagues, all those things that used to be traditions, wars that brought an entire generation together that weren't necessarily immoral. I'm not saying any war is moral, but World War II, those guys rallied together to stop what they were indoctrinated to believe was a atrocity.
And that's the false thing. Is you talk a lot about the millennials, and you talk a very good game about the millennials. Is that maybe just the way that happens is a little bit different. Remember, when all those communities came together, they melded into one, and individuality was lost. And that's how most of those things together is that, no, hold on.
That's not
No, hold on. Look at the
true.
50s. Look at the post-World War II. And look at everything else. Is that when these big groups come together, you know how the military comes together and came together and the country rallied? is through losing individuality and all uniting behind one message and giving up all else. That's how the war was done. So that was a bad example. But
hold on. No, let me dispute that point before you move on. You are looking at a collective view of history. You are not looking. You're basing your opinion not on individual accounts. I think if you were to go back and you were to read things like, if you watch the Pacific, there were several books. Sledge is his last name, who wrote books about it. You look at these individualistic accounts, they have very, very different views on what they're doing than the conventional collective history that you're talking about.
Well, one thing I like to really base that off of is like the Tennessee Valley Authority and how entire communities would basically shun you from the community if you did not help the war effort by giving up your job and your shop and your home to help build the dams. But that's I guess that's a collective thing.
You personally don't experience that now? I mean, there are people who are going to say Barack Obama was loved by most of the people who were in the United States, and he was this great progressive president, but there were a small minority of people who didn't like him. And maybe that'll be different because there is such an explosion of information. But I think you're not wrong, but even in the community of the Libertarian Party of Indiana, you have been outspoken, you have shown yourself to be an individual, and
steered the direction of the party.
And at times, you've taken flack for being too, quote-unquote, different. And not
right, but on to my main point, is that I think a sense of community and that coming together is there. Look at Anonymous. Maybe it's not people getting together and with picnic tables and girls wearing pretty dresses. It's people online. How our society operates is different now. We're sitting here podcasting. What? Really? What kind of community is this?
What kind of bullcrap is this?
To people twice our age, they're like, you people are weird.
Right.
We should be in a bar, a community, small, hole-in-the-wall bar, drinking beers and talking to locals, right? No, we're connecting with twice as many people. I think that we don't get into deepest bonds with people that we think we're not getting anyways because we connect with so many more people, which I think is much more important.
But the discourse has coarsened a lot. Because if I'm on Facebook and I don't know someone, I'm not pulling any punches. But if I think someone's wrong that's a friend, I will message them privately and be like, listen, here's my perspective.
You're
this is
an
why
exception.
I think that.
Yeah, well, but I dared to speak out about Obamacare the other day, and someone wished diabetes on me and hoped that I got good insurance because my leg would get chopped off.
I think some people need to hear all
Jesus.
that, though.
Yeah, you didn't
Who
see
said
that? Some guy that I sent their name to Miah.
Some idiot.
Yeah.
Do we know him?
No.
No.
Okay.
You probably didn't deserve all that, but there are definitely people who could use some beratement, and the internet gives that to them.
Yeah, but
And I think that's beautiful.
they're even in that setting of 150 years ago, people sitting in a large house or rooms discussing ideas. If you post something on Facebook that is over 3 paragraphs, you're never going to reach people if it's that long.
I do all the time.
Right. So
there's not a whole lot of context to that little bit of conversation we just had.
Right.
Being is that my friends list in particular is kind of groomed. That's why I do some very outlandish things because I push out people that I don't really want to be there. And so you'd be amazed, and Chris, you've heard people say it, is that I'm a topic, I'm a household topic. I get discussed about all the time, is that, and people read my 3, 4, 5 paragraph long rants. It's because I clean my friends list. So not everybody does that. You have almost 5,000 friends, and you don't clean your friends list. You're very nice. You're very cordial to people.
Yeah.
You pull some punches sometimes,
I did
all the time.
I did. That guy who said I should get diabetes. I did say that his comment was much like his life, irrelevant, lacking wit, and nobody will really give.
Right, but no, I mean, so with the context on that bit is that, it kind of depends on when you're on Twitter and you use hashtags and you were commenting on some other popular person's post, so that didn't really count. Right. But that's also trying to talk about language and where we've gone. remember when we look back to like the early 1800s and George Washington days, those people were vile, evil, mean people. They dueled, for God's sake.
Oh, Jefferson got a newspaper to write that Adams was a transvestite.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean...
Now,
and that
so
it's a good one.
I think it's a little bit different. I do think we have a very strong sense of community. Look at Adam Kokesh getting picked up. Look at Dread Pirates Robert getting picked up. There's people literally right now talking about banding together, finding out where this guy is, and busting him out of prison in a very, very serious way. Look at what people do when they band together to make technology, like Tor and the Silk Road and everything else. It's just... It's a little bit different. It's not the same way. So we judge it like we judged something 50 years ago, and we can't.
Well, one thing and that's why these podcasts are so long. And I have always, in the history of the podcast, we used to keep it to an hour, but we really felt like you can't get the full course of the discussion if you keep it to an hour. That's it. No longer than that. You know, if you've got 3 to 5 smart people in a room and they all want to get their points in, why cut them off? We don't have to cut them off. If you don't want to listen to the whole 2-hour podcast, don't.
And just so you know, that's the closest Chris will get to a compliment all day.
Yes.
3 to 5 smart people in a
3
room.
to 5
at the same
smart
time.
people. There's 7 people in the room.
Uh-huh.
No, but that's one of the reasons that we keep the podcasts fairly uncut. Like, there was a part where I gibbered a little bit, and I'll cut that out to make myself look good. But that's all the editing that we do because we can. We want to flesh out the ideas, and we know that there are people out there who are listening who want those ideas fleshed out as well. We don't have to try and force it into something. One of the things that we've talked about, that if you're listening and you think this is a good idea, is we'd like to start doing events here in Indianapolis where we get together with people. We met some listeners to the podcast a couple nights ago, and I just thought as I was leaving, I was like, why don't we get together with people in person and maybe not do a live podcast, but get together and hang out. You know,
Are you
would be
insane?
Or do a crossfire of a topic.
We both, me and you, have followed Rupert around to thousands of events.
Right.
Do you really want that?
Yes.
You
We
guys
really
are as popular as Rupert.
We used to.
That's going to be the same experience.
There was one time. There was one time where we were at the state fair, I think it was, and we were out with Rupert, and someone who was a follower of me on Facebook or something came up to us and said, "Chris, oh, it's so nice to meet you."
Yeah.
Like, now when you're walking around with Rupert from Survivor, it's like constant, nonstop, "Rupert, I love you. Can I touch your beard? Get my picture. Sign this autograph.
Grab my boobs."
All right.
And he's always stopping to help people.
Oh,
out
yeah,
'cause he's the
constantly.
man.
He's awesome. And so this one person was like, "Chris, it's so nice to meet you. Hey, Rupert. Oh, can we get a picture together?" And Rupert kind of goes, "Sure." And then the guy hands him his phone to have Rupert take the picture of me and this guy. I was like, that's the greatest moment of all time. That was the only time I ever felt like any
remember
kind of
at
a
the
celebrity.
Survivor viewing party last night, there was 5 people that showed up because I was going to be there.
Right. Well, everybody wants to see a train wreck. So what I think we ought to do... I'm just kidding.
Well, don't.
It's just
right
a joke.
in the chops. Busted.
Miah got mad. Oh, please don't break that bottle over my head. So we used to do this in the radio station called Cocktails and Conversation, and we would just basically everybody get together in a bar.
It
and
is
show
a
up
very
and have
good
fun.
idea.
And it'd be fun.
Could you imagine getting me drunk in public and talking to people? There would be millions of people showing up to that shit.
I think it'd be fun. So if you live in the Indiana area and you would actually show up, because like we don't want to do it, and we would probably do it, and it's just us showing up, and it'd be fun. But
Yeah.
we're gonna put forth the effort. We do want to know that
It's
you
a night
guys
of
would
drinking
want it.
anyway.
Exactly. So if you
And actually, hold on.
would want to get together with us, send us a Facebook message on the We Are Libertarians Facebook, email us at editor@wearelibertarians.com, or tweet us at We Are Libertarians, and let us know that you want to do that. So and we'll get together and hang out. So here fairly soon.
Make sure to specify which members of We Are Libertarians you would like to show up. Specifically me. Because everybody's, you know people are going to be like, I want that freak Miah to show up. Maybe she'll suck my dick in the alley.
Oh my goodness. Gina's not even here and I have to do editing. So you usually are so well behaved.
I've been very calm and a lot quieter than normal, so I figured I'd hit you somewhere else.
I know. So I've enjoyed having you on tonight.
Fuck you.
Oh, God, now I got to edit again. I better make a note here. Gina, by the way, still in New Orleans. But you should go listen to this past week's Story Time with Gina. It contains the phrase, "speaking to my good titty." I'm not going to explain it further than that.
There's a
cool.
homeless Marine named Blue and all kinds of obscure...
We talk about Katrina. It's Gina at her finest. It's by far the best.
It's very meta.
So let's get on to Obamacare. One of the things that, as the exchanges have opened, I have asked our lead research correspondent, Greg Lenz, to find out a little bit of what exactly is Obamacare. I think we a lot of times sit there and go, I hate Obamacare, but I don't know what it is. So we wanted to give you sort of a brief primer of exactly what Obamacare is. What are the exchanges that are being opened? So, Greg, please enlighten us a little bit.
All Obamacare is a mandate. You got to buy insurance. You can buy your insurance through 3 different avenues. The federal exchange, if your state decided not to build their own. A state-federal partnership, if the state decided it wanted to run some parts but not all. And a pure state partnership, where it did it completely on its own as its own exchange. If you make a certain amount of income, you qualify for a certain amount of tax credit. Also, it set essentially a floor on the amount of services that could be offered on each plan. You get a certain choice based upon what level of coverage you have, and the government determines that coverage. And then lastly, it's probably unconstitutional, but John Roberts caved.
Is a loser. So if I were to sign up for an exchange, what does is it a federally or state operated plan, or are they just setting what the regulations for the plan have to offer?
It is a privately administered plan, but the government sets the baseline for what that plan has to include. What kind of coverage, how much coverage, what types of procedures. It's rated bronze, silver, gold, platinum, 4 different levels of plan.
Right. Okay.
And then you get a tax credit depending on your income.
All right, so it sounds easy peasy.
It is the exact opposite of
really?
easy peasy.
Okay. Why?
Wow, you had it all nice and bulleted out for us.
I know.
Well, wait, why is it so long then?
Because the devil is in the details,
Is there
as
a lot
always.
of extras in there?
Logistics.
Are there a lot of doors that have been unlocked?
That's
that
what I
can
call
later
the
be
forest
expanded
from the
on?
trees perspective. Except this forest never ends.
All right, so what do you mean? If I sign up for the exchanges, it sounds easy. It sounds like they're going to help me get the coverage that I need.
Well, in fact, first would be that you could even go to the website and it would be functional. That would be the most difficult part, because they are not.
Joke's on you. Nobody signed up in Georgia because the website didn't work.
And I love that the Democrats, or Sebelius and the president, well, it's so popular. I was talking to this Google founder the other day. Didn't even name him. If you're going to reference the guy, name Larry or Sergey.
It's
one of them.
Eric Schmidt. That guy.
He's not even a founder. He was the CEO brought on later. I mean, at least get your facts right.
Comparing a mandatory forced product to a voluntary product like iOS 7 that is magnificent was the most highly offensive thing Obama could have done. I was ready to impeach him right then.
Oh, I mean, and then to say, I can't believe a monopoly's popular. It'd be like if there was one water source in the world. Well, look at all this demand.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, of course, duh.
Right.
You know, build something that works.
So when I sign up for the exchanges, I get the choice of 4 plans. I don't get the choice of like 3 or 4 different carriers.
You get 4 levels of plans, and then you get choice of carrier within those plans. Each carrier's plan has different specifications around it that meet guidelines.
So there's a ton of plans, and they're
Not a
all-
ton, because
not a ton.
a bunch
Well,
of
as
companies
many
have pulled
as the
out.
Companies
The
offer,
there are
but
certain
they're
companies, like
Okay.
they list what
So-
each plan covers.
a company might have 2 silver plans.
Yep.
And okay.
Or one company might have a silver plan, and then another company might have a competing silver plan, like
All right.
United and Aetna, except they keep pulling out of states because they realize they can't make any money at doing this.
You know what this sounds like? The free market, according to George W. Bush.
It just needs proper incentives, Chris.
Right.
Proper incentives.
George Bush, in the wake of Medicare Part D, this was something similar where they offered selections from 3 or 4 different companies. They're like, this is the free market at work. And I'm like, the free market isn't at work if the government is controlling the plans, you dolt.
No, it's like if you picked who got to compete in the free market and then told them exactly what they could offer and what they could charge.
Right. So why
It's a free
why
market.
do you hate poor people, Greg?
Why do I hate poor people?
Right.
You know, I don't. Unfortunately, I would love. See, I used to hate him. I was in the GOP, but now I'm starting to get tenderhearted towards him.
So it seems to me that they're offering these plans. So it sounds like you're basically just making it easier to find insurance. So what about it makes it cheaper for your average American? Why couldn't they just call Anthem on their own? What's the incentive to go through the exchanges?
The incentive to go through the exchanges is comparison, which in theory isn't a terrible idea because a true marketplace, you need comparison in order to determine price.
So sort of like Kayak, you go there and then they rate all the airlines' prices.
And if insurance companies had actually done that and the government wasn't so involved anyway, we might be at the place where going to get heart surgery was $6,000 instead of $65,000.
Well, you know, the government's the reason it never happened because
exactly.
they blocked competition from happening in the insurance market.
Right.
But, you know,
and you talk about too big to fail. Like all the small insurance providers, like they're trying to carve out niches right now. Like everyone's shuffling to see what their niche is going to be.
And everybody loves a niche.
Oh, and it's going to be worse than the bailouts. Like you are going to create the largest insurance organizations you have ever seen because economies of scale is going to be what everyone pursues.
So basically you're empowering, this is why the insurance companies loved it, you're taking the companies that offer insurance in these exchanges and you are making them the new monopoly.
They were willing to take cuts in reimbursements, especially hospital networks, because they were getting a flood of new customers, and that was their actual testimony.
Wait, Ted Cruz didn't mention that in his 20-hour speech?
So you said something about Aetna in Maryland. What is that deal?
Maryland has a law. They ran their own exchange. They decided to create their own, where the insurance companies have to come to the state board of health and justify their increases and ask for what they need to stay in business next year, and it will or will not be granted by a board of 9 experts.
Whoa.
Politically appointed experts.
Right. So Aetna, which is based in Maryland, will no longer be operating in...
Oh, no. Maryland. And neither will I think who's out of whatever the company that was founded in Connecticut, they're not going to offer it in their home. Principal Financial Group, which is the largest insurer in all of Iowa, covers 85% of Iowa's population. Not doing it anymore.
Okay. And we've seen increases here in Indiana. So states like California and New York and other big government states like
the
all
big
the blue
liberal states set up
right.
their own.
Right. And they're seeing decreases in the premiums in those states. Here in places like Texas, Indiana, Oklahoma, you're seeing increases in premiums. Why is that?
Because we are subsidizing the big bad blue states.
Okay. So not only are we shifting income from the red states to the blue states, we also have had historically less regulations on our plans, and now we have to increase regulations, which in turn also increases cost.
But just think, Chris, now you get access to, pregnancy pills.
Ooh.
I mean, you didn't get that before on your plan.
I know. If I had known that 10 years ago, I would not have this belly.
Hey, that could save me a lot of money if it was free. There's estrogen in them things. I eat them like candy.
Now, you'd be sterile, but you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Why the hell? Who wants to have kids in this world?
Yeah, those damn breeders.
Ask Harry Reid.
Yeah. It's wow. All of a sudden, this went from respectable podcast to that. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else should we know about these exchanges that is sort of lost in the news a little bit?
As far as the exchanges go, the plans are not necessarily a good deal because there's a real issue at hand because this law was crafted by Congress. It was, we have to pass it to know what's in it, the Nancy Pelosi quote. But the IRS and HHS actually gets to rewrite law without congressional approval. So anytime they want to make a tweak or a change to this law...
Wait, to the entire bill?
They can make changes, and that is the real danger. There's a case coming up by the state of Oklahoma that's challenging that before the Supreme Court, that how in the world is a regulatory body able to change U.S. constitutional law?
I got 2 questions for you about that then. So if this bill, with as massive as many things as it does reach into, because I'm sure you'll get into it, how many different things it does kind of have its fingers in?
Oh, there isn't anything it doesn't have its fingers in.
Okay.
It's easier to just say...
So technically, this board, it's a board, right?
No, it's actually the HHS, Health and Human Services, and the IRS in conjunction.
Could we just go ahead and call that the death panel?
Okay. Well, the next thing
I am in favor of calling things death panels.
Okay, good.
With the HHS, do you know this? How are the heads of those 2 organizations
Politically appointed.
politically appointed? Okay, so basically, let's just say Obama has created the most powerful organization, made the IRS and the HHS the two most powerful parts of our entire government.
Yep.
Far beyond any other.
Yep.
And he can appoint
the heads. It makes the NSA look like child's play.
Now, wait, hold on. Wait, all the employees of those two organizations have been fired, right?
Because they're non-essential.
So, if they are fired furloughed long enough, and they decide to bring in new people at the heads and at the top, they could basically completely restaff these two brand new, most powerful groups. Correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So, why have the conspiracy theories gone nuts with this? My mind's already reeling.
And hey, didn't that agency just have someone resign because they were persecuting a certain segment of our population for their ideological beliefs?
Ben Carson, like 2 weeks ago, after he gave that speech, he was audited by the IRS without any justification whatsoever.
Right. Well, the justification was that he dared to say that Obamacare sucks to the president's face, and then he got audited.
How dare that Uncle Tom?
Right. Well, we're really going for it this episode.
I'm saying that's what he got labeled. That's what he got called on Salon.
Peffers, do you want me to edit you out of here?
Now
You got a lot of color to your face, Chris.
I haven't heard that. And, I mean, I haven't followed Obamacare that much because I know once a bill gets passed, until it really gets funded and implemented, it changes incessantly until then. I mean, the Food Safety and Modernization Act a couple years back was like that. But you're basically saying that the most important aspect of this bill has yet to be talked about by any of the so-called leadership, and Ted Cruz, Mr. Perfect Hair, or Rand Paul, or any of them have not brought up the fact that Obama could technically, not Obama, but the President of the United States is in control of the most amount of power in the United States. That he can basically change and control whatever he or she wants.
Yep. Totally based on political appointees.
Huh. Well.
Oh, and wait.
I'm going to go ahead and leave and go home and start digging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on. It's on now.
The case is Oklahoma versus, I think, HHS. It's at, they are challenging that the way the law was written is that Congress, sorry for the delay, Congress wrote the law expecting that it would actually be the Republican states who would set up their own exchange, and then those states would in fact still get federal subsidies. And there is a missing clause, or somehow it got left out, that if you take the federal exchange, you let the government set it up, there's no language that specifically states you're entitled to the subsidy. Because they didn't expect, they thought every state would set up their own exchange or at least do a state-federal partnership. What happened was they called their bluff and said, we don't want to put this burden on our state, so good luck. Best of luck to you. We'll comply when it's operational. And the language isn't specific to say whether you, in fact, do or do not qualify for a federal subsidy if your state did not choose to set up their own state individual exchange.
What exactly does that mean?
We're not sure. We're going to have to wait on the Supreme Court case.
Wait, I mean, what would be the outcome of not getting the subsidy?
Then you would be on the hook completely whether you made $1 a year or $1.5 billion a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, talk about, just so we can blow Chris and Miah's mind a little bit more.
You can blow me anytime.
Voluntarily.
Yeah.
Not forcefully.
No.
He's
well,
mentally
I'm like
gay, 'cause he'll
little
blow
teeth
your
won't
mind.
hurt.
By the way, on Facebook, I was strongly suggested to blow a guy because I dared say that the cops acted wrongly. Love that public discourse. Some guy from Beech Grove. So
Wasn't
he has
that
no
a cop,
class.
too?
No.
Can people from Beech Grove even vote?
He's the guy who owns the chicken limo.
Apparently
That's
they
a
can get on Facebook.
No, he does that all the time. It's fine. I don't care.
He's a prick anyways.
Oh, no, it's a different guy.
Oh.
Okay, so tell them about why you consider this to be the greatest threat to our individual sovereignty.
Okay, because once you socialize something, then the majority controls your behavior. So let's say you understand that completely, right? So now we are going to have medical databases that will have everyone's history. On top of that, we have everyone's personal life through the NSA and the PRISM program. On top of that, we have everyone's financial records via the IRS. So now you have merged the IRS, who's already in control of your entire financial life, with your entire personal life. Do you really think the NSA is going to turn down any request to get the, the third part or the tripod of the triangle they need in order to get this done and ruin your life? I don't think so. I think we have created the database of all databases.
Well, remember, there's a guy, a pretty outspoken, prepper guy online that does YouTube videos, and he went to the doctor, and he declined to get a potentially life-saving surgery. He's like, I don't have the money. He's like, I don't want to do it. And the doctor ended up calling the authorities. The authorities ended up pushing up to federal authorities, and they ended up going to his house with sheriffs and taking all of his guns and revoking his license and barring him from owning guns.
And what was this guy's name? Any idea?
I have his YouTube videos saved. He still makes videos.
Tell you what, go to your Twitter, which is
Miah Axton,
MIAH
AKSTON.
Okay, and you will tweet that video out sometime in the next 24 hours.
I will tweet his channel out. Yes.
Okay.
And they actually took his guns away, and I didn't follow it for a while because that takes forever, and so I haven't really followed him much later. But he did. He got everything taken away, and I'm pretty sure he's still alive. I saw one of his videos pop up the other day. And that's not necessarily uncommon. If they think that if a doctor for whatever reason makes a note, if you've ever seen a doctor's notes, there are actually some doctors out there that show their notes and whatever else they've talked about this, is that they make a lot of notes saying that you were extremely agitated or they
difficult.
Or they don't think
Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
Going to different doctors, difficult.
And they can write down that they think that they can give reasons, and they put random crap they really shouldn't into your notes, and they can say that they maybe think you might have some kind of mental issue or something because you're in a hospital. After you get injured, you're not going to be in the right frame of mind, but, that's fine, or whatever. But yeah, no, the NSA pick up on that. Oh, you want to talk about gun control? No, they'll just call everybody mentally incompetent.
And that's the thing, is that this government isn't going to do that. But the greatest devil in all of the world is legal interpretation, because it sets precedent, and then from there it's all slippery slope. It was, for instance, healthcare. Well, the government argues, well, it's a tax. It's not a mandate. We're not making you do it. We're able to raise money. We're granted that authority by the Constitution, even though they had never argued that ever until they got before the Supreme Court. That legal precedent was set, and from now until the end of the Republic, we are going to be held hostage by that interpretation. And that is why, as much as you hate an Antonin Scalia or you hate a Alito or Thomas, they interpret the Constitution purely based upon the written word.
Right.
And that is the foundation of a constitutional republic. Those written words on your original founding documents are your protections. Once legal interpretation comes in, it's licensed to commit atrocity.
I want to ask if you guys think that the shutdown was a blessing or a huge error on the part of the Republicans. And I think you can look at the shutdown one of two ways, okay? The Ted Cruz filibuster combined with the shutdown creates a negative media environment right before the exchanges opens, and then the Obamacare exchanges lose a ton of earned media and free press because the headlines and the constant drumbeat on the opening of these exchanges would have been about the exchanges, and they are relegated to back pages because of the shutdown. Or you can say the exchanges didn't work, it was terrible, it would have been a failure on the front pages of the newspaper, and you completely distracted one of your best PR moments for killing Obamacare, because what you need to kill Obamacare with is a lack of people signing up to get into the exchanges to transfer that wealth from the millennials to the older sick folks. You need the poor, young, healthy kids who are signing up for the exchanges to give their money to the old, sick, poor people. Okay, that's a crass way of looking at it, but that's essentially what it is.
No, you got to call a spade a spade. The biggest reason that horrific things happen is because people are afraid to be blunt.
Right.
They're afraid to call it like it is, and that's what it is.
Right. So,
whoa. No. I don't think it's going to the old people. The transfer of power. When you control someone's life with medical care in the medical industry
and Social Security,
much more important.
Sure.
So
I think it's twofold. One is functionary, is to make the system survive. You've got to have those young kids. But on the back end, the less thought of version. I mean, there's many heads to this horrific beast. Okay, so I think it's not either or.
This
It's
is
Medusa.
basically a great topic when you talk about Obamacare and all of its implications and what it's doing and everything right now that's going on is the perfect discussion to talk about why government is inherently evil.
Right. It literally erodes the basic fundamental question. Do you own your own body? Do you own your own body? Do you control yourself? Are you...
Not when other people pay for it.
Right.
Not in the United States. No, we haven't for a very long time.
Right. So, do you guys think that it was a bad PR move to shut the government down, or do you think it was a good PR move to shut the government down? Peffers?
I think it was a bad move, PR-wise, because it kind of just comes across as petty.
Sorry, my cat is licking your face.
I know. It's
Mittens, could you please
some
get off
attention
of
here.
his beard here? Literally, my cat was just tonguing Pepper's ear.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. That'll be $5.50 before you leave, sir. So, bad PR.
Yes, because it just comes across as petty, and the less effect we see from the government shutdown, the more petty it looks.
Right.
And if Obamacare is a disaster, they should just let it be a disaster.
Right.
Let it come through, and it'll fail, and then they make their move.
Which, you are making John McCain's very argument, you statist rhino.
What was that about strategic alliances?
Yeah. So, Lenz?
Well, I would ask you to prove what social entitlement has ever been taken away.
I don't know.
There's not one.
I think
Anyway, the point is...
It's a trap!
Yeah. Okay, so that's not going to happen. The point is the Republicans are terrible at messaging. They always have been. They are terrible at pretty much everything they do when it comes to actually playing politics. I think the blind squirrel found an acorn, and government's still going to function. 80% of it's still going to work. Old people are going to get their Social Security checks, all this stuff, and people are going to look around and be like, really? This is what shut down government looks like?
Right.
Because the independents are with the Republicans on this. It's only the hardcore liberals who are like, oh my God, government, I love it. No one else really does.
Whoa!
I don't think that argument quite works, though, because the government's not fully shut down, and no one really believes we're living without a government right now.
Oh, I know. I think people understand that.
They're like, yeah, we're living without national parks, and that's all they see it
No,
as.
I agree.
I don't think
that's the point. People understand the hypocrisy, and they're like, they understand the inherent hypocrisy that you have employees you label as non-essential. So they're like,
Hold
well,
on.
if they're non-essential, what the hell do we need them for?
Hold on.
Yeah.
But
Our taxes are high enough.
it's a matter of time, too. Remember, they cut out a whole bunch of NASA, too. They cut out a whole bunch of military contractors, which is a huge thing, and they'll be able to... It's time will tell how they use this, but it's not... They didn't cut out the most visible or the least important parts of the government. They cut out the most beloved parts of the government. Think about it. Think of what people love about the government. Now, you know what people like about the IRS? Is that if there's an audit or there's a problem, you can call them and deal with the problem and maybe try to fix it. You can't now.
I doubt that...
Hold on.
I doubt IRS shows up. If we did polling right now in the United States, I doubt the IRS hotline shows up in the top 50 responses.
People are going to be more mad about the Panda Cam.
Yes.
No, wait until
Yep.
tax season next year. Imagine if this lasted for a while. Wait until tell that to all the companies and stuff out there might be going through an audit. Tell about that all the other people. What about all the families?
Audits are shut down. Audits are shut down. You could not pay your taxes, and if the government stays shut down, you will not get audited because they do not have the infrastructure to provide it.
You know what will happen? Is if for some odd reason the automatic stuff stops working or catches a glitch in the system, they still dispatch a fire team to your house.
No.
That has not stopped.
Those were included in the non-essentials.
So you're telling me right now, and you're telling people that if you do not pay your tax right now, they're not going to do anything to you.
If they don't pay their taxes by April 15th, the only people who file taxes quarterly are businesses.
I know.
So
That's
right
what I'm
now,
saying.
business people they're required to file their
Right.
taxes, but the ability to essentially the enforcement mechanism is considered non-essential, and that's a huge strategic problem on their side.
I'm not going to get into that anymore. But God,
No, I'm just saying that-
God bless
No,
America.
it was
I'm
a
gonna
mistake by the
stab you in the
IRS.
throat.
It was a mistake by the IRS.
No, but the most beloved parts of the government, NASA. Who do people love? When people say they love the government, What do they talk about? NASA.
Go ask people if they've wanted to be an astronaut for 20 years. Everybody knows SpaceX is more innovative than NASA. People love Elon Musk.
You
They
are
don't love
giving
NASA.
the people of this country way more credit than they will ever be due.
The
people in this country are absolutely brain dead.
People watch the Red Bull fall from
That
the
is
sky in
quite a bold
droves more than
statement.
Apollo 11.
That's true.
They did.
That atmospheric jump that guy did.
He
that was
jumped
a huge
from the
deal.
atmosphere.
How is it you
Watch
have the 1950s Mayberry view of America, and I'm sitting over here arguing how much we've changed?
1950s.
Is this the
No,
Twilight
I
Zone?
Go back. Why is like
What did I
Jefferson,
enter?
hate
If
people.
people
no,
are
the hell
such
just
sheep,
happened
how
here?
I know.
no,
If
people.
people are such sheep, how can we trust them with a libertarian society?
No. You're all sheep because you're minarchists, and that's the problem. Is that you still believe government inherently has a place in our life and can still be free with government.
As long as it's privately contracted.
Privately contract what? You
I
mean like
think
private
even-
monopolies
I
creating
think even
government
if we
collusion? Yes, that's
got
what you
rid of
mean.
government-
Competition,
No,
competitive
because if
governments.
you have laws, you have to enforce laws, which means you have to have prisons.
No.
Really? How do you enforce laws, and how do you
You
punish
get
people for
creative.
A
breaking laws
system of
without government?
retribution, financial retribution.
Really?
You get creative, yeah. Like you're
Wage
not
garnishment?
giving people enough credit. Have you
God
seen all the?
damn.
Or we'll go
Minarchists.
Catholic. We'll go Catholic and do excommunication.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. You got to enforce all that with the threat of violence and a gun in a metal cage. But
No, we'd stare them down.
yes, you would.
Give him a steely
People
look.
in this country, the vast majority of this country, could not. First off, their imagination could not allow them to picture a world without government.
That's true.
And two,
I agree.
they love government.
I don't think they love it as much as they used to.
Really.
I think.
Tell people, you know what? Okay, remember the Ron Paul elections
Mm-hmm.
when he talked about cutting complete departments. The vast majority of people said he was insane and that would be utter chaos. Department of Education, no public school. Oh my God, our children would never learn. If we didn't have the Department of Transportation, we would never have roads. Roads, man.
I agree. No, hey, I agree.
That is that the vast majority of this country love the idea of being taken care of. Look at the amount of people that worship cops in the military. They think that our soldiers are providing freedom. That right there goes to prove that they have a broken axiom for the basis of all their philosophies, which means they love government and they're wrong and they're idiots and you're giving them way too much credit. I'm going to slap you in the face.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. I totally do.
You
My whole
take
point
everything
earlier.
to the extreme.
No, I always. Maya and I are of the
That's
same
the
mind.
definition of Miah.
Maya and I are of the same mind.
But that's not how life goes.
We have the
Not
same
everything's
strategy.
Extreme.
That's my entire life. I live it that way, and I'm an extremely happy, somewhat successful individual.
Maya and I have never disagreed
Is
on
that
strategy.
like your day that you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, you're like, I am a happy, somewhat successful
Yeah, that was-
individual?
Yeah, that was.
No, I
definitely
wake up in the
like
morning and go,
Stuart
God
saves
damn
his
it, I'm
family.
still alive.
And then his next line is
Whose?
Emily. Her next line is Emily. We're going to need a new mirror.
God damn it!
Hey, as long as I wake up and I get to play with her tits before she does, that's why I have good days. If she's gone when I wake up and I don't have her tits to play with, that's why I need breast implants.
That's exactly
Hey,
how I feel about
Charlie
mine.
Sheen winning.
Yep.
Hashtag winning.
Winning. No. The thing is, like, I completely agree. Like, people can't imagine the absence of government, and so that's where for Maya, she likes the idea of well, then let's just go to the end point. Why are we messing around with all this crap and never arrive? For me, it's all right. Well, here's this path to walk down. Where okay, what about our kids in the schools? Great. Why do you hate poor kids? Why can't we give them vouchers so they can pick schools where they don't go and have to worry about getting shot?
I think if you were to collapse the system at this point, you've got so many boobs that you just end up with, and not that kind. You end up with you have so many boobs that you just end up creating the same exact system over again, so you have to have a period of re-education.
No, there is a period of re-education.
Will there be camps?
Now, hold on. No, there'll be plenty of people using sporting or camping gear. Remember, when I always say this is hypothetical in my real world scenario, when I take a group of 10 people and I overthrow the entire U.S. government with 10 people, because it could probably happen. There isn't this whole, yay, we freed everybody. It's like, yay, all you idiots can no longer force me to live under your rules and your morals and values. This group of people over here are going to survive just fine, and if you die, you die. If not, you might have learned your lesson. You can be self-sufficient now and pay for your own consequences, and now we can all live in a free society. Everybody else, you can try to start your own government, but we're going to slaughter you if you try to take away our freedom.
But see, isn't that the exact reason that nobody wants to be an anarchist is because you yell and scream and then you say you're going to slaughter me? Like, why would I want to live in a stateless world if you're going to slaughter me?
I'm going to slaughter you if you try to take my freedom from me.
Right,
live free or die.
But I perfectly understand everything about you.
Yeah.
People who are on the fringes don't perfectly understand you,
Hold on.
and they misinterpret your meanings.
Okay, if you're listening to this podcast, you're somewhat on the fringe, and you understand where I'm coming from to a degree. And if you don't, then why are you listening to this podcast in the first place? Go back and read books.
Maybe
now. It's
because people need to
Thank
learn.
you for insulting the listeners.
I can sell the message a million different ways. You've heard me do it. I just
libertarianism.
I've got a bunch of minarchists and little statists here, so I mean I don't need to do that here. I'm gonna make something for the crowd that's gonna agree with me to listen to it, and the other people maybe it'll thump in the head hard enough that it'll wake up. But it's about being able to live your own life. Now you just used a point to kind of insult Peffers there. Did I say your name right? Peter Puffer? And
yes, you did. The first time.
What a lively bunch. There's a reason we don't hang around
you use something to
VFWs.
kind of make a point and insult Peffers by saying, well, what like welfare program has ever ended, right?
Yep.
None, right? 200 years. People much stronger, much smarter than us, when government was a lot less large and controlling, and where more people were involved, more people were educated.
You expose my hypocrisy, I understand.
And nothing's
I'm sorry,
changed.
Peffers.
No, but the problem is that even in an anarchist society, a minarchist society, a whatever society we currently exist in, I guess you could say constitutional republic, without vigilance, without constant engagement, thank you. I wanted to hit vigilance hard. Without constant engagement, you lose whatever that is. So you could have an anarchist society, but you still have to be just as vigilant. And this is the problem, you try the Constitution and look what happened. Well, look what happens if you live in an anarchist society and you aren't vigilant and you don't pay attention.
You know what's cool about an anarchist society? Mm-hmm. There's no blanket. There's no little piece of hemp paper with some ink on it sitting in some box somewhere that says you're protected.
Right.
You have to, every single second you're alive, work and think about your own protection. Be that paying that monthly bill to that third-party mediation company, paying that monthly bill to the security company, paying that monthly bill to, say, the guy you hire to take care of the roads in your neighborhood if you want to take a charge of that, or whatever. It's a constant reminder to stay vigilant on top of it because you're constantly being involved with it and you're constantly controlling the situation that you're involved in.
The engagement level necessary is the deterrent. That's the deterrent.
And secondly, Secondly, what is it to you if I'd like to live in the city of Greenwood and I would like to not have that kind of constant payments? I just want to pay my minuscule tax bill to Greenwood and you plow my roads.
You know what happens? You know what you do? Man, what are those things called? They're long lost a group of people, and they were always really helpful. And what you did is you hired them, and they basically handled all that for you. Oh, God damn it! What were they called? Accountants.
Accountants don't shovel
I've always
snow.
found that
I'm not sure what that point was.
I've always found that condescension and sarcasm is always the most effective way of winning hearts.
But both
well,
your
it's
points,
more
both your,
effective. With
Dale
logic.
Carnegie is rolling over in his grave.
both your points were, maybe I don't want to live in that. Maybe I don't want to do it.
Well,
I don't care. Go live somewhere else.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's what he's saying to you.
Right.
Anarchists,
you leave.
And
But
he's
hold on.
already got the thing. It would be a lot more effort
No.
to switch to yours. For
Not
a lot
real-
more
look,
people.
Okay, right now what we're under is a system of oppression. That just because you're in this geographical reason, you're
the
under the
universe is
oppression.
oppressive. I got to eat every goddamn day. Whose law is that?
Gravity.
Damn it, I mean,
What the hell?
if I came over there and ripped your dick off, you would bleed to death.
Yeah.
Damn physics and just biology. But anarchists just want the ability to live in a free place. Now, within the context of here, I've spent 20-something odd years building kind of a life here, understanding things. Why should I be the one forced into oppression, under tyranny, because other people are okay and they consent to it and they're just content with it?
You shouldn't have to, but until you have the monopoly of force or the
I don't want the
ability
monopoly of force. I want to break the monopoly of force.
What
Or swing enough people to your argument. Those are the two things.
In a minarchist,
one or the other.
The level of government that I am comfortable with in a minarchist state is at the municipal level.
But hold on.
If you don't like it, leave.
There's two things, right? One is that would you rather start off from your I hate that word. That's one of those words I can't say. Municipal level of government.
Just say munipal.
Would you rather start at like the township level or
shit? Township or munipal?
Or none at all?
Right.
Where would you rather start at? Because government, and it is inherently a human weakness.
Oh, it's cancerous.
Is that things will change and grow and flux, and somebody will somehow grant power, and somebody will come out and say, we need to kill all the black people. Let's rise up. And then, that's probably going to happen in Kentucky or something.
This has been our racial diversity podcast.
Right.
Samantha.
Okay, we got to rise up and kill all the cis people. That would probably be me, by the way.
Right.
And then
Facebook at 11
and then create a small government or a military or a tie-in or something. That's possible. But would you rather start from the very bottom? Nothing at all. Where it would probably take quite a while just to get to a little bit. Or would you like to start a little bit where you already have a system in place and like a guaranteed power structure? Where would you want to start from? Would you rather start with none, where, hey, at least for your lifetime, you might be pretty good, and, it's a pretty good system that as long as, a meteorite doesn't smash down on your house and blow up like 30 of your neighbors, you should be okay. Or have to deal with this tiny little thing and constantly battle within that little power structure you have consented to.
I have no problem with a level of government that has courts and still has private police forces, private fire departments. I have no problem with that, and that's my decision, and it's not your decision. What I'm not for is every citizen on the face of the United States must be sign up for a government health care.
Tracked in a government-provided phone they can listen to.
Well, I feel like Miah is overestimating how different things would be in an anarchist society. Like, I'm fine with an anarchist society because I think things would be just fine.
Right.
I think it'd be a lot like
if
it is
it were
now.
all people like us.
See, the difference
I think
Miah
we're
would be
already stuck with the people on Earth. Like,
Miah would be making things
different. There'd still be people trying to screw you and manipulate you, but
there are certain individuals in history that are power hungry.
Yeah.
Miah.
And so what they will do is seek to consolidate, find someone to blame, and then use public opinion to slaughter you.
See, the difference between your two approaches to anarchy is Miah wants to make things happen and make sure people are protected. You just want to make sure that you are too stoned to notice. And that is the fundamental difference. Miah would be the one plowing the roads, and Peffers would be going, shoot, I don't got to leave today. All right.
Your favorite... Can I ask Miah a quick question?
Yeah.
Your favorite book that you didn't finish was Atlas Shrugged. Is that right? Or it's in your top 5, give or take?
I don't finish books, but... Yeah,
it's
Atlas Shrugged's probably one of my favorite books to read ever.
What did you think of Galt's Gulch?
The idea behind Galt's Gulch? I thought it could have been a little bit more better explained and more thought out, but I found some issues with it because they were all basically living on somebody else's land.
I'd like everybody to look into the kitchen and see why we can never have an anarchist state. My wife is opening a bottle of wine with a knife pointed at her face.
Well, she's married to you. Can you blame her entirely?
She does constantly use sharp objects around people's face, so I kind of trust her with it.
Yeah. All right.
More so than you.
We got to wrap up. Okay, get on your soapbox. Let's talk about the soapbox, in case you forgot, is when we talk about whatever catches our fancy that was not related to the show, or if you want to finish one more point, or if there's something that you'd like to promote. If you do not have a soapbox item, I would suggest the Silk Road and explaining that. So we will let Miah go first now that we have given her suggestion.
I would do the Silk Road, but that will be a topic of discussion on my show, The Uncontrollables, which airs on Tuesdays at 3 p.m.
Ooh, a teaser.
Maybe. No, I'm probably going to talk about the Silk Road and a lot of other things. Now, soapbox-wise, that has absolutely nothing to do with this show, but whoever listens, maybe some fans on here, listen to my Creating Miah podcast, is that it's pretty much dead in the water at this point. I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. We've got a lot of discussions about it. It might turn into something that we've, more or less into something that we've talked about for other shows and other things, we might change that direction. So that would be something for listeners of the We Are Libertarians to maybe pay attention to. I mean, you should pay attention to me anyways, because I'm God's gift to Earth.
You really don't seem like you want to be noticed. I don't get that.
Yeah.
No. But a more of a social commentary show that I think a lot of people would like to hear about what some of us think about more social issues or things beyond politics, because this gets really boring and dull sometimes. But we're all very weird, interesting people. Just look at Peffers.
Yep.
Sitting next to Greg, then you, and then me, and then your wife, and then mine.
My wife
We're some weird fucking people.
That's
the island of misfit toys.
So,
my wife takes exception. She said, "Who are you calling weird?"
She just likes her wine in a mason jar. Leave her alone.
That's considered weird these days. But so I think that's something for everybody to pay attention to. And basically, if you want free pictures of my tits, buy them for me. Please buy them for me.
Hold on, are you going on myfreeimplants.com?
No, because it's a cam chat site. You basically have to be a porn star to get on there.
Well, suck it up.
No one's going to pay to see this naked online. I'm only good with my hands and my mouth.
Oh, God. Well, this is taking
You
a
were
dark...
just trying to sell free pictures of your naked body as incentive.
With boobs.
Right.
With boobs.
Oh, well.
There will be no before picture.
Oh,
No
it's
before
just-
picture. Just after.
All of a sudden, I feel like I'm a story time with Gina. Talking to my good tit. Peffers, hop up on your soapbox. Tell us what you're ranting about this week.
Breaking Bad ended, and I'm effing bummed.
I know. I'm conflicted because there was a
I
moment...
love the ending.
I did too. I thought it was the perfect ending, and I will say...
It was just good.
Everybody got what they deserved.
Yeah, I liked Walter White. It was a really good mix of judgment and redemption.
Right.
You know, his world did come crashing down, but he was able to get some affairs in order.
Right.
And that it was just a really good crime ending, because you can't let him get off scot-free.
The moment I was sort of done with it was when the girl was shot, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And I just was like, no.
That was heavy.
Enough of that.
That whole last half season was just intense.
But it was great stuff. All right. Anything else? Anything you'd like to promote? What you got, a Twitter, a Facebook, anything like that, Peffers?
MySpace?
I do have a Facebook that I never post on. It's a personal thing, kind of.
All right. He just posts pictures of his beard on there.
Not even that.
Anything, Greg?
Yeah, watch in the media this week. You are going to hear the 14th Amendment brought up over and over and over. It's an old Civil War era moment about the validity of the national debt. And look for the messaging to change that the 14th Amendment gives the president the right to raise the debt limit without congressional approval.
All right. Yeah, we're going to talk about the debt ceiling next week. We also have an interview that we're doing tomorrow with the founder of LavaBit. And if you don't know what that is, then you should tune in to... Well, we'll put it in the feed, so you'll get that hopefully tomorrow if that all works out. And we're also interviewing Julie Borowski for the show report this coming weekend.
You excited?
I am. I'm very excited. She's a very smart gal.
Whoa!
Look at how excited this guy looks.
Very excited. Okay, so... Stop it. All right, well, that is the end of one dynamite episode of We Are Libertarians. I thought it went really well. I felt it was engaging. I felt that there's enough to make you angry, but I also felt that it was a solid 6, much like me. So, next week, we promise that we will do...
Better next time.
Music for We Are Libertarians is provided by Hoosier musician Brian Keith Wallen. Please check out his website, briankeithwallen.com. The song is Bad Spell.